Hey, what is up, my people? Got a lovely little game in the Rousseau Gambit to share with you. This is part of my new Freddy Krueger repertoire as black, and which is really a repertoire designed for people who love the Vienna Gambit, or the Vienna game. So let me take you through it. So I scored like 91 accuracy in this game. It goes on for 26 moves, and I will take you through. So the Rousseau Gambit starts from the Italian, with the bishop out here to c4. You can play something similar, which is, can't remember, some German name, Schliemann Gambit or something like that. If they play the Spanish and bring the bishop all the way out to here, you can do the same thing and simply push f5. So this is very similar pattern to what you would see with the Vienna Gambit, with the exception that because you're playing as black here, your opponent's had one extra move and they've got the bishop out on the board. Now, we will see in this game that sometimes that bishop can actually be a hindrance for white. Okay, so here, white now brings the knight out, which I don't think is a great move, because all you do is you go ahead, you capture towards the center with your f-pawn. Right, we're not worried about the queen coming out with check because the knight's in the way. So we've just won a pawn and we're attacking the knight. So it seems very, very natural to capture with the knight on e4. However, what's the problem with this idea? The problem is pawn to d5 with an immediate fork. Not good. Not good at all, precious. So basically, I think white here is going to lose material. I mean, if he comes forward with check, either square, the squares are covered by pawns and pieces, so there's really no way out of this. So here white sacks his bishop and grabs a pawn for his trouble with a desperado move. I recapture with a queen, now again attacking this knight, which would come with check as well, so something must be done. The knight retreats, pivoting round to hit the queen right back. This pawn's covered, so what would you play here? Okay, so here I drop the queen back down to f7. There's a few reasons for this move. One is that I've got a light squared bishop ready to fly out into the board. Right, we might have ideas of maybe taking this knight and forcing the queen to take. Queen takes queen, and then pawn takes, really messing up white's structure should he want to castle kingside. Another reason for the queen on here, and this is something that I'm trying to do more and more in my play, is to play multi-purpose moves where every move tries to achieve a few minor things to solidify and coordinate my position. One of the issues here is that the pawn on c7 is undefended. Bringing the queen back to f7 just defends that pawn. Okay? It does nothing to hinder my knight, does nothing to hinder my bishop coming out into the board, so what's not to like? Right, so now white decides to go ahead and castle. I bring out my bishop, so now I'm getting ready to castle long and stick my rook straight on d8, lined up with the queen. And here you can see the other point of this move. This knight is now pinned. Now I have the option to take, and either pawn takes immediately, in which case the king's exposed, or takes, pawn takes, pawn takes, and the king's exposed. So my opponent gets out of it with a Tarantino attack on both queens. So he's created a discovered attack on his own queen, and he's attacking my queen at the same time. So I thought here for 24 seconds, do I want to trade queens? And it's an important question. So it would go, I take his queen, he takes mine, I take his knight with my king, he takes my bishop with his rook. So at the end of that, what has happened is I've given up a perfectly good bishop for a perfectly serviceable knight. But looking at the board, right, there is no pawn deadlock, right? The board is open. It's entirely open. There are no pawns butting heads in the middle of the board. Therefore, we have a wide open board. Therefore, bishops become stronger relative to knights. Because ploddy old knights, you know, they don't want to be in loads and loads of space. They like, you know, tight urban combat situations. So That's one reason not to give up my bishop for a knight. Another thing is that my king would be forced to move, and my kingside rook in particular, this guy, is going to have a lot of trouble getting into the game. So I decide to decline the offer of trading queens. So I slide my queen back to d7, where it defends the bishop, but white still has an issue because white's queen is still under attack. I think that was the right move. White plays f3 now, blocking the attack on the queen and hitting my bishop in return. So I just drop back to h5. I want to keep the pin on this pawn. So that's another general thing that you will see stronger players starting to do, is to build up threats and possibilities of threats and maintain threats. Right? So right now we're kind of equal. I mean, I'm up a piece. That's the big thing. I'm up a piece for a pawn. White now plays queen to e2, which is a curious move, neglecting to develop this bishop. The queen's the only attacker on there, but it's defended already by a knight. And it doesn't do anything about the pin on the pawn, so I just castle. Get my king to safety. Get my rook onto the semi-open d-file. Looking good. a4 now. So now white is kind of starting a... Now, admittedly, both players here in mid-1200s, because I've just been dicking about with Blitz for the last week or so, just feeling like I'm not 100% and I don't really want to risk my rapid ratings. I'm just messing about and trying out this repertoire before I really try and do it on fight night. So this is a problem for white, and he's neglected to complete development. I think something like pushing the pawn, maybe get the bishop here, put some pressure on this corner possibly would be good. Connect the rooks as well. Right, so we'll see how it works out. So this is arguably a kind of premature pawn storm idea. Right? It's not backed up by enough material. Okay, so I develop my bishop because I value chess principles. Okay, I might decide to take out this knight and double his pawns, I'm not sure. But if he captures with b, b takes towards the center, it opens up his bishop and also gives his rook a line down towards my king. So maybe I don't want to do that. We shall see. He now pushes the pawn, which means there's a discovered defense by the bishop on this knight. However, he's lost a bit of control here. Also, my knight has a lovely little square on d4. But first I develop my other knight. I want to get all my material out into the board. Why not? So now he comes in with his knight that's already developed. He still failed to develop his dark squared bishop and connect his rooks. So, I mean, what is this? What is this move? This is a 1200 kind of move. This is I'm going to attack a pawn, but the pawn's actually already defended by a knight, plus the pawn can just slide to a6 and kick the knight straight back, and back he goes. So what's been gained there? Nothing whatsoever. Right, now, and now it's black's turn to move, right? Here, white has the initiative. White moves, kick, white retreats, and now it's black's initiative. So he's achieved nothing other than to give the baton back over to me and put the ball in my court. So what are we going to do from this position? Right? Well, the one thing I notice is this knight is in my space, and I don't really want it in my space, so why not push h6, make the knight retreat? He's going to have to come here or here. There he gets taken, there he gets taken, there he gets taken. So the knight now comes back to e4, and now we have tension between the knights. But I kind of like the fact that my opponent's pushed this pawn. I still have both bishops on the board, because he lost a bishop right at the start, right, playing very quickly. And I'm also already eyeing up this diagonal here. Now, I don't want to put my bishop there straight away because he's going to take it. So, rook g8 first of all. Just simply lining it up with the king. For example, should this queen ever abandon the defense of, this pawn, there might be ideas of taking the pawn. If that one's... It would need the queen and the rook too. to leave. Okay, and now he slides his queen forwards. Okay, and suddenly lights flash and little sirens go off going whip, 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 whip. Okay, what do we see? Queen, king, same diagonal. Haha, pawn missing. Good. Right, what's the only problem? Well, there's a couple of problems. If I put my bishop here, it can be taken by the knight and it can also be taken by the queen. So we need to get rid of the knight. That's step one. So here I spot an intermediate opportunity. So maybe there might be ideas of maybe taking out this knight, and then kind of casually drop the bishop back here. But I'm also looking at a fork on rook and queen here. So one other thing that it kind of that I enjoy doing, if where possible, is to conceal my ultimate intentions within other intentions, right? So here it looks like I'm kind of attacking this pawn with a fork, and indeed I am. You know, that'd be a good thing. But really, the big prize is this. If I can somehow pin the queen on the king, that'd be good. But I have to deal with the issue of this knight. Maybe this bishop could come in. Maybe this knight could take him out. We'll see. Right, so my opponent moves the rook. For reasons I don't really understand, because the thing is, it doesn't actually defend this pawn. Now, if he developed his bishop at any point, he could have put a rook on c1 and defended the pawn. But he didn't, because he's been too slow. So I grab the pawn and hit the queen. I figure, look, it's a pawn. Queen moves back here. Knight comes back. Queen comes back. And now I hit the queen and this knight. Okay, knight takes, queen takes. Now he pushes a pawn forwards where I can easily capture it, right? So I haven't removed this knight now. My bishop can't go there. So it's time to use the light squared bishop to come in and take this guy out. His rook moves again. So what's his rook doing? I don't really understand the purpose of this, okay? And now I take out the knight. He takes for the pawn, and I'm starting to think, okay, game on, right? This could come off now. But you've got to time these attacks correctly. So clearly I've got to do something with my queen. I want to line up my bishop here in some way, and we'll see what happens. So I drop my queen back to a square where it can continue to defend this square. Okay. Bishop attacks bishop, and I immediately, in 1 second, drop my bishop back to here. Okay. Almost suggesting to my opponent that I'm evading your attack. I don't want to trade bishops. That's all I'm thinking about. Okay. And my opponent now plays queen c3. So maybe he spotted the pin. Right. There's this revealed pin. But queen c3 is no better. Because what is black's next move? All together now, knight to e2, right? And it's not only a fork on king and queen, but it's a double check, okay? And if you're in check by a knight, and if you're ever in a double check as well, then you have to move the king. So there is only one legal move here. The king has to go to h1, the queen will fall, and my opponent here actually abandons the game with 3 minutes left on his clock. Poor time management, I would say. And it has to be said that his first moves were 0.1 second, 2.1, 0.7, 2.9, 1.0, 4.5, 0.7 seconds. So the first time he took above 3 seconds was move 9. And at this point, he was already a piece down. So there you go. So, yeah, very satisfying win. And I think you will agree that for Vienna players, right, we just ignore the fact that we have the black pieces, and we ignore the fact that this bishop has come flying out into the board, and we play the Vienna Gambit style as black. But it's called the Rousseau in this situation. And if they bring out the knight, looks very, very natural indeed. We just take, and they can't take back because boom. Winning advantage on move 5. Okay, all good. So there you go. If you're a Vienna player, you like the Vienna Gambit, you like getting rid of Fred, All right, then this Freddy Krueger repertoire might be for you. So also, if you're a Chess Bootcamp Live member, it's my session later on today, and we're going to do 3 different things in the session. So my session's at 7 p.m. UK time, that's 2 p.m. Eastern time, 11 in the morning Pacific time, and so on and so forth. We're going to do 3 different things. We're going to do some checkmate problems. We're going to do some opening mistake problems, literally where people make mistakes in the first few moves, as we've seen here. And then we're going to, in the third part of the session, we're going to look at a middle game plan, which is very, very interesting. So if you want to join that today, if you see it in time, go to chessbootcamp.club, sign up, and you'll be in. All right, see you later.